Bro, I've been seeing a whole bunch of videos of people reacting to like pop videos and things like that. We're gonna react to this short, but we're really gonna be acting to this video. We're gonna react.
She got a gun, yo. Yo, chill, son.
Go!
Yo, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's
I don't even got nothing to say about that. I don't got nothing I can say about that.
This is your garbage trash browser, and this is Opera.jx. You see this difference?
He's got a rifle. He's got a rifle. Shots fired! Shots fired!
2 Wisconsin police officers are shot and killed after pulling over a suspect wanted for missing child support payments. Officials
See, bro. See, bro. Pay your damn child support papers. Man, it's 2 against 1. How'd you?
now calling him the epitome of evil.
Ready? Okay. We're approaching. Yeah, we see it. All right, it's on his left.
The Wisconsin Department of Justice released dozens of photos and videos to Law and Crime Network showing what led up to the deadly shooting on April 8th. It happened in Barron County, about 2 hours east of Minneapolis. Chautauqua police officer Emily Breidenbach and Cameron police officer Hunter Scheel pulled over an SUV driven by 50-year-old Glenn Douglas Perry. Perry was armed with a rifle.
Both officers are down. He's set up with a rifle.
327, Baron. I'm only copying parts. Is he still on scene?
327, we have two officers down. He is set up with a rifle.
Prior to the shooting, officials say Perry was displaying concerning behavior after a messy divorce. In an interview post-shooting, Perry's ex-wife told officials she believed he was bipolar and schizophrenic. She also noted he had multiple guns. In an interview with detectives, Perry's son said he, quote, talks pretty bad about cops. His son also noted Perry, quote, trains to kill them, more or less, with a gun range built on his property. Just days before the shooting on March 30th, a civil bench warrant was issued for Perry after he went months without paying child support. Just one day before the shooting, the Barron County Sheriff sent out a warning email about Perry's concerning behavior and mental health issues. The email instructed law enforcement officers.
We're gonna react to a different video. We're gonna react to a different video.
Newly released security footage shows what led up to a deadly officer-involved shooting in Tennessee after the suspect allegedly fired multiple shots at officers in point-blank range. It happened on August 11th in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Officials with the Hamilton County District Attorney's Office say Chattanooga police officers were...
See, that's how it go. He shouldn't have been up there with no gun. He shouldn't have been at no. If he knew he was hot like that, if he police was investigating him, why is he there with all those people at the gas station? Don't get it.
We're tracking down, quote, multiple dangerous offenders to serve warrants. They say suspect Ronald Hurd Jr. was a, quote, felon, a known drug dealer.
That officer right there had to strike to kill him. If he was right there pointing a gun at him, and he was right there getting that way, and there was a whole nother cop right there, he shouldn't have got away.
Dealer and a gang member. At the time of the shooting, Heard had an outstanding warrant
It's deadly.
out
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Knox County, which is about 2 hours northeast of Chattanooga. Just before 10 p.m. on August 11th, officers met up with Heard at a Speedway gas station where he was believed to be, quote,
That was just stupid. He shouldn't even walked up to his car like that. He shouldn't even walked up to his car like that. Police officers like open up his door and talk to the intercom, step out the car, things like that.
participating in illegal drug transactions. Video shows officials approach Heard's vehicle with their guns drawn. Investigator Selton Batterson can be seen approaching the driver's side door of Heard's vehicle before backing off after Heard kicks toward him. At that point, Heard fires multiple shots at Batterson, who was shot in the arm and injured. Immediately, Heard rushes from the vehicle as other officers open fire toward him. Eventually, he's hit by gunfire. After that, first responders performed life-saving measures, but Heard died as a result of his injuries. Investigators later recovered a stolen firearm in Heard's vehicle, along with more than a pound of marijuana. A, quote, large amount of cash was also discovered on him. Previously, Batterson was placed on administrative leave last summer after allegations of untruthfulness or misrepresentation circulated. He was later reassigned and received a settlement payment. After the shooting, Batterson received surgery for his injuries. Right now, he and 2 other involved officers are on administrative leave. The shooting itself is still under investigation by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
Straight pitiful. That's straight pitiful.
Take 3 steps back.
A Florida detention officer turns himself in after allegedly killing his girlfriend in front of her 3-year-old daughter. On August 15th, Florida officials say 21-year-old Chase Harder, a detention officer for the Fort Lauderdale Police Department, shot and killed his girlfriend in nearby Coral Springs. The victim was identified as 24-year-old Diana Hurtado.
Obviously, my guess is this was a domestic dispute that clearly escalated, but I don't know for certain the answer to that question. And
former CIA officer and FBI special agent Tracy Walder says while there are still many unanswered questions in this case, some aspects seem cut and dry.
There's no question, obviously.
Shot and killed his girlfriend in front of her 3-year-old daughter.
He murdered his girlfriend. I don't know that they're questioning that.
Coral Springs police responded to an apartment complex on the city's south side just before 8:30 p.m. last Tuesday. That's where a witness said he'd heard multiple gunshots and a child screaming. After that, he saw a man carrying a young child to a car before driving off. Officials on the scene found Hurtado on a nearby balcony with multiple gunshot wounds. She was pronounced dead on the scene. Investigators say Harder returned Hurtado's 3-year-old daughter to her biological father before turning himself in. The video shows Harder turning himself in at the Coral Springs Police Department. Officers on the scene later took him into custody. Harder has since been charged with premeditated murder and written threats to kill or do bodily injury. Just weeks before her murder, Hurtado reported to police a series of disturbing texts she'd received from Harder. In the messages, he threatened to kill her. Walder says she's faced similar setbacks in her personal life when law enforcement doesn't immediately react to such reports.
And I don't blame her. Most people don't. And it's really upsetting how not seriously law enforcement takes these types of things. They look at it as one-off, and women being hysterical. I mean, even with my background, that's how I was treated. I shouldn't be treated differently, even with my background, but it's really unfortunate. And yes, the police may not have legally been able to do more, but that speaks to a broader issue of needing to change the laws around this. I'm always very supportive of law enforcement, being former law enforcement myself. I don't know. I can't say whether law enforcement took her seriously or not. I don't know the answer to that question. However, laws against threats and stalking, in my opinion, and from what I've learned recently, are terrible. And I don't know that that's the fault necessarily of police departments or if that speaks to like a bigger issue at hand.
Officials also say Hurtado's 3-year-old daughter likely witnessed her murder. Walder says Harder's choice to remove her from the murder scene could mean additional charges against him.
And so what I found super interesting about this case is it sounds like he took her 3-year-old and then returned that 3-year-old to the little child's biological father, which I found that to be interesting as well. So I would suspect that there'll be a kidnapping charge also added to that.
Even so, law enforcement will tread lightly in requesting more information from the 3-year-old.
You know, you always want to be careful and not re-victimize a child. And because he turned himself in, and I'm assuming he's being cooperative with police, my guess is they will not, further interview, further traumatize this little girl. I would hope that they wouldn't. I don't think that they need to, because the reality is if this does go to trial, which I actually don't think that it will, but if it goes to trial, her testimony won't have any real bearing on the case given her age and the circumstances. So my hope is they're not further traumatizing her. But I do think that they may add a kidnapping charge, but a lot of it will really depend on the circumstances.
Just months before Hurtado's death, Harder was honored by the Fort Lauderdale Police Department after being the first graduate from the Broward County Institute of Public Safety's Basic Corrections Academy in nearly 20 years. According to a post by the Fort Lauderdale Police Department, Harder also received an Academic Excellence Achievement Award before he began his position as a detention officer for the Prisoner Intake Processing Facility. Walder says it may be uncommon for law enforcement officers to commit this type of crime, but it isn't unheard of.
I mean, typically we don't see law enforcement engaging in this kind of violent crime, but I don't want to say that they're immune to it.
She says it's likely Harder's law enforcement background that prompted him to turn himself over to police.
So that's not something that happens often, but what I will say about that is that I would say is in line with him being law enforcement, right? In that I think he knew that all of the evidence would have ultimately pointed to him. And I think that is why he turned himself in, is because he does understand, how the system works. And so I actually think that makes sense that he turned himself in, given that he's law enforcement.
At only 21 years old, Walder says Harder's age isn't necessarily relevant to the crime.
I started at the CIA when I was 21. And so I think the reality is, and I think what we need to do a better job of doing is screening in terms of looking for these kinds of behaviors, because the reality is these types of basic training programs, they're really helping in terms of giving them the book knowledge, weapon skills, those kinds of things, but they're not necessarily looking at folks' emotional intelligence and emotional health. And something like that probably could have been screened for, because I think it's unusual that you would just flip a switch like that and result to killing your girlfriend.
Instead, Walder suggests this type of behavior could be prevented with additional mental health screenings.
But is that person seeking treatment for them? What kind of treatment are they seeking? I think those things are very critical. I also think just in terms of, at CIA, we had to meet with a psychologist prior to being declared fit for duty. I think that's something that's really critical. At FBI, you don't do that. And so I think those kinds of things, for some reason, haven't necessarily made their way into law enforcement as a whole. And that's problematic. Yes, it costs money, and I get that. But maybe we need to be diverting more funds. We're spending more money now training officers in situational awareness and less tactical, which is a good thing. But maybe we need to also be looking into psychological screenings as well.
While there are still many unanswered questions in this case, namely what Harder's motive may have been, Walder is confident answers will be revealed.
Damn.
My guess is a motive will come out. And I think that speaks to why, the police department is saying this isn't an open and shut case, because motive will be critical here in determining premeditation and then what degree of murder they're going to ultimately charge him with. So I think motive actually will be pretty key here.
After Harder's arrest, the Fort Lauderdale Police Department released a statement reading in part, quote, "The details surrounding these allegations are very difficult to hear and do not reflect the character and professionalism expected of the men and women of our agency. As a result of this arrest, Harder has been placed on administrative leave without pay pending further investigation." We reached out to the Coral Springs Police Department, but officials there say they're not granting any interviews as the preliminary investigation is still underway. Reporting for Law and Crime Network, I'm Sierra Gillespie.
Are you a new AT&T customer looking to upgrade your phone? Your truck.
Bullshit.